This week, I'll show how to use MetPy's unit helper to make working with data frames and united quantities a little bit easier. Welcome to another MetPy Monday. Hello, I'm John Lehman, a software engineer at Unidata. This week, I'm going to show you a handy feature that we've looked at a little bit in the past, but it is the unit helper that helps us work with Pandas data frames, which can't store unit information, and MetPy's requirements for united quantities. I'm going to go ahead and get some sample data to work with. We're going to get a sounding using Siphon. So to start off with, from datetime, import datetime. And I'm going to make a request time of, let's go with 1999 5312Z. Okay, and I'm going to make a variable for my station. This will be the OUN, or Norman, Oklahoma station. And then we need to actually import the upper air simple web service from Siphon and request the data. We've covered this pretty extensively in other MetPy Mondays, so we're going to go pretty fast through this. So from Siphon dot simple web service, remember tab completion in notebooks saves you a lot of typing. Dot Wyoming, we are going to import, oh, there we go, tab completion, Wyoming upper air. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and actually request the data, which is going to come back as a Pandas data frame. So df equals Wyoming upper air dot request data. And remember, if you do shift tab inside a function like this, it'll bring up a pop-up that has some basic information from the documentation. So here we see it wants time and then site ID. So we'll pass it our request time and our station. So when we run that cell, so you see that we get a warning because Pandas doesn't like something that we're doing with units, but I'll get to that in just a second. The first thing to do is look at some of our data. So I'm going to call df.head to see the first 4 or 5 lines of our data here. And that's exactly as we expect. But what Siphon has done, and what the warning from Pandas was about, is we added a .units attribute. So if you look at df.units, you see it's a dictionary where the keys are the names of the columns in the Pandas data frame, and the values are whatever unit that column is in. Now we could attach those manually. In fact, that's what we used to do not too long ago. But we added something to MetPy called the Pandas data frame to unit arrays helper, which is a very long name, but it's descriptive of what it does. It's going to take this unit information and attach it to the information in the Pandas data frame. But we can't add quantities to Pandas data frames, or data series rather. So what we end up doing is returning a dictionary where the key is the column name and the value is an array that has the quantity attached. So it'll behave sort of like a Pandas data frame. In fact, you'll still call it the same way, but it's not going to have all of the added Pandas benefits. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to import it from metpy.units, since this is a unit utility. We're going to import Pandas data frame to unit arrays. Again, I just press tab there because I don't want to have to remember where the underscores are and so on in that. I'll run that cell to go ahead and do that import. I'm going to call it sounding because it's not really a data frame, so I don't want to call it df and reuse that variable name. Set it equal to Pandas data frame to unit arrays and operate on our data frame df. Now, if we look at sounding, and let's just say pressure, you see that it is indeed an array with the unit attached. So this is a dictionary, even though it is accessed very similar to how we would a Pandas data series there. So that's helpful, and we're depending there on Siphon putting the right information in the .units attribute on the data frame. But what if you have your own data that does not have a .units attribute and you still want to use this? Well, we can do that as well. If we look at the documentation, remember Shift-Tab here, you see there's a keyword argument, column units, which is a dictionary of units to attach to the columns of the data frame. It will override the units attribute, so you could override the units in the sounding that we just looked at, for example. If you knew that for some reason Siphon attached degrees Celsius and you knew they were degrees Fahrenheit. But let's just make up a little data frame here. So I'm going to import Pandas as PD. One handy trick that you might not know is you can create a data frame from a dictionary. So I'm going to create some data here called my data. It's going to be a dictionary where variable 1 is a list, 1, 2, 3, and variable 2 is going to be another list. We'll call it 5, 6, 7. And then we need to turn that into a data frame. So data frame equals pd dot data frame my data. If we look at my data, you see we have our dictionary. If we look at data frame, you see we have a Pandas data frame. Okay, so now let's make some units to attach to it. My units, and let's say that var1 is our key, and let's say its units are degrees Celsius. var2, let's say its units are meters. Okay, and now we can call our helper. So my united data is going to be Pandas data frame to unit arrays helper, the data frame, and then we pass the column units keyword argument with my units. Now if we look at what is in my united data, you see that it's a dictionary with var1 being a quantity, degrees Celsius, 1, 2, 3, var2 being quantity, 5, 6, 7 in meter. So that's a handy way for you to attach units to data frames. Maybe it's easy for you to read in a CSV file of surface observations and then use this to go ahead and attach units to those so they work natively with MetPy's calculations, since we depend on units. The Python ecosystem is still trying to catch up with the idea of united computation. Things are shifting around a little bit, but this is one way that we're trying to make it a little bit easier on you to be able to use all of these nice features in a more seamless way. I hope that you found this useful, and I'll see you on next week's MetPy Monday.